Wait, Jared,
that's here.
What's that?
Everywhere else, everywhere in the country, guys, it's more than just a presidential election. Vote
100%.
down ballot, think about what you're doing.
Important races in every state. JR, thank you for joining us, especially on short notice. Hopefully we'll get to talk a little bit later on. But anyway, be well on this election day. Everyone out there, Indisputable is gonna be coming up very soon. Cenk is gonna be there. We got a full day of coverage for you. We're not gonna leave you hanging on this most consequential of days. But thank you for joining us for the damage report. I'll be around later on tonight. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's Indisputable. I'm your host, Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Today is a special day. The rest of our narrative for America will be determined by results that conclude on this day. We have Cenk, we have Sharon on the program. I will be with you later today on the Young Turks, also bringing you coverage. Remember, coverage all day today right here at the TYT Network. All right, first story of the day. Remember this guy, a sheriff who said he would not help anyone who supported a Democrat or Kamala Harris in particular. I'll put him up full mask. I'm taking you to Ohio. He said, if you support Democrats, I will not help you. John Rogers, Ohio sheriff. This is the sheriff's lieutenant, found himself in hot water after multiple recent social media posts stated he would refuse police services to residents who vote for Kamala Harris in today's election, writing on Facebook. I'm sorry. If you support the Democrat Party, I will not help you. End quote. Keep his picture up there. You see, that's MAGA. That's cult-like behavior. He receives tax money from Democrats. He receives his pension from Democrats. They pay for this man to actually protect and serve. He has a constitutional mandate based on the state constitution to actually help. He has a duty and responsibility. So let's go over the post. Another post he wrote, quote, the problem is that I know which of you supports the Democratic Party, and I will not help you survive the end of days, end quote. He also wrote, quote, at the end of the day, I will require you to provide proof of who you voted for if you ask me for help. Weapons and ammo are not cheap. Then finally posting, quote, Kamala Harris represents Satan. Please don't let Satan win. Oh, that's a Christian evangelical, love of Christ. All right. Despite his inflammatory rhetoric, John Rogers, a 20-year veteran, should know damn better, of the Clark County Sheriff's Office, was able to keep his job as a road patrol supervisor after blaming his prescribed sleep medication for making the out of character remarks. Marissa, let's put those remarks back up just for a minute. I want to see something. This man didn't misspell not one damn word. Now, without the sleep medication, a whole lot of us texting that much, we may miss a word. Everything's grammatically correct, basically, as much as MAGA can be. But he blames it on sleep medication. When confronted, Rogers told supervisors, quote, I do not remember writing these posts or deleting any post, according to an inter-office communication obtained by news station WHIO. Rogers has since received a written reprimand for violating the department's social media policy, but he remains on duty without any further discipline. They wrote him a letter. The sheriff's office also issued an apology for Rogers' behavior, promising to collaborate with him to help shift his fascist point of view. We're going to work with him. I know what he said is racist and kind of like Armageddon, and he has the power to shoot and kill and get away with it, but we just feel like he's a good guy. Okay, we're going to work with him. If he would have worked at Wendy's, Wendy's would have fired him because Wendy's has standards. He could work for the police with absolutely no repercussion at all. Chief Deputy, let's put him up. So eventually, Chief Deputy Mike Young became aware of the post and issued a statement acknowledging that he found Rogers' comments highly inappropriate. Young emphasized that these remarks did not represent the sheriff's office commitment to serving all residents equally, regardless of their political affiliations. Why is he still there? Because he knows all your secrets, that's why. Because you all have done too much dirt with him to fire him. That's why. The culture is revealing itself. And Cenk, I got this question, man, because obviously this is what a MAGA regime looks like. Trump, if he were president now, would have promoted that SOB and his rhetoric. But the reality is this: if a cop will post that much and say he has amnesia. He doesn't remember. How can this man ever be effective in service? I'm just trying to take it out of the political for a moment. How can he write a police report that's believable? A defense attorney will have a field day ripping him alive on the stand if he ever tried to testify against somebody who probably may have earned an opportunity at a jail cell. This guy now has ruined it for the whole system. What say you?
Yeah, Rashad, I'm bothered by the fact that we all live in different realities. And some of those realities are so starkly different that it's unsettling. So it's one thing if you got somebody working at Dunkin' Donuts who thinks Kamala Harris is Satan and all of her supporters shouldn't get any donuts from him.
Yeah.
It's another thing when a police officer thinks you're Satan and that he won't respond if you're being sexually assaulted or if you're being robbed or killed. And what's interesting is, look, I get it. You work with people and you want to protect them and you've known them a long time. But you're in the protection business. So the police in this case are saying, I would rather protect this guy who has stated on the record publicly that he does not want to do his job if it's with someone he doesn't agree with. And God knows what their race or gender, et cetera, is. I would rather protect him than you guys. I would rather expose you guys to his obvious, enormous, ridiculous bias than to put any damage on him. So as a society, we have got to get back to one reality. And of all the people in different jobs where that reality makes the most difference, police is at the top of that list. Because are we going to be served and protected, or are we going to be hunted? And so this is a scary world we're diving into. And this is among the reasons why I think Donald Trump has been a cancer in this country. And he's allowed these guys to not just exist, but to come out of the closet and say what they're going to say. And your points about him being cogent in that, the statements he's making is insane, but the post was perfectly cogent. It didn't sound like someone who was having trouble thinking clearly at the moment.
Right, exactly. And the fact that they let him get away with saying that in an official report, well, that's obstruction of justice. That's already another violation when he was investigated himself. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. This is an update. Indisputable first brought you this. Remember the black male found hanging? Well, now the federal government is involved. Put up the picture full mass. We said this should have happened on day one. Indisputable previously covered the story of Mr. Denoris Richardson, 39 years of age, black male, who was found hanging in an abandoned Alabama home. After an official request from the sheriff's office, the FBI will now be conducting a thorough investigation into the case. I'm going to remind you, Mr. Richardson was found hanging by a rope on September 28th. This was at a home in Colbert County. The sheriff's office ruled his death to be a suicide. We called foul on that immediately. The AP reported, but his wife, Leanne Richardson, was not convinced he died in that manner, telling AL.com that she demands answers. She said her husband filed a federal lawsuit in the month of February against police in Sheffield, where they live, accusing them of taking part in abusive behavior while he was detained in the Sheffield City Jail in 2022. The latest filing in the federal case was a motion to substitute parties with Denoris Richardson's wife. Richardson, who was a coach for children's baseball and football team, claimed he was assaulted, denied medical attention, and sprayed with tear gas and shot with a taser while in jail. Lee Richardson has not accused anyone specifically, but insists her husband did not unalive himself, and we supported that notion based on the information provided. According to Mrs. Richardson, after filing the lawsuit, her husband was frequently stopped by the police. During those months, he was trying to stay out of the way. She explained. The Sheffield mayor, Steve Stanley, confirmed that Mr. Richardson had visited his office at least once to voice concerns about being profiled. the mayor was aware. Stanley assured Richardson that any officers reported through official channels would be investigated. The Sheffield Police Department did not confirm the frequency or reasons for stopping Richardson. Now, the mayor's playing a game here. What the mayor is saying is that he is not the official channel for an investigation to be launched. So even though Mr. Richardson directly told the mayor that he was being harassed and targeted due to the lawsuit, the mayor himself is saying he's not the official conduit or protocol in order to create an investigation, which is bogus, by the way. He could if he chose to. Sheriff Eric Ballantyne confirmed that the FBI has now accepted his request to investigate the death of Mr. DeNoris Richardson, stating that his department, quote, exhausted all resources in its investigation. Quote, we feel confident in what our findings were, but we feel like by doing this, we can give the family more peace of mind, according to the sheriff. The FBI's field office in Birmingham also confirmed their awareness of the case and is reviewing allegations of criminal misconduct. Tory Bailey, president of the local NAACP chapter and the only Black member of the 6-person county commission in Colbert County, noted that the community's reaction to Richardson's death is influenced by the region's history with lynchings. And I want to remind you, the reason the family seemed so upset was because the sheriff's office made a conclusion without an investigation, which obviously created red flags. And we said we wanted answers. It looks like answers may be on the way. Cenk, thoughts here?
Yeah, so those of us who live in big cities are kind of used to there being at least some degree of accountability because there's large newspapers, television stations, et cetera. And some of these stories can get really big national pickup. But, you know, I mean, this is kind of a funny example, but, you know, I am watching Yellowstone on television, and they're in a part of Montana, and it's just a TV show. But you see that in that corner of the country, there's a law onto itself. And there's not a lot of recourse for people who get on the wrong side of it. And the most interesting part of it is how things get covered up and how you not only is there an initial injustice, but on top of that, you've got folks who have a vested interest in making sure that the rest of the world, the outside world, doesn't find out about it. Now, for me, in the outside world, and this back to the reality, the real world here, it's hard to know what happened. But that's part of the problem.
Right.
And when you have these local communities where if someone is against the authorities and all of a sudden something like this happens, I'm so worried, Rashad, that we're never going to find out the truth.
And that the family's worried, right? And you make a compelling point. The us and them mentality that pre-existed the incident was created by them. You have such distrust in law enforcement and such distrust in the formation of government that is supposed to investigate these matters that, well, when something like this happens, you need good faith. And then the sheriff's office coming out and concluding it was what it was prior to doing an investigation to find out what it was definitely did not help. All right, well, here we go. Black family, sidewalk, graffiti, racism, common story. Let's take you to Los Angeles now. So a Black Los Angeles family, put it up full mass, has experienced, well, vandals. They left multiple racist messages. They were threatening. They left these messages on their home, cars. When did this happen? Oh, Halloween night. Yeah, when children are, you know, celebrating candy. Elizabeth Garbutt said she woke up in the morning after Halloween to find the slur-laden messages spray painted on her family home, 2 cars, and the sidewalk in front of her house. Quote, my whole body just shut down. I had no means for words. All I could do was cry. Let's keep her picture up. That's called trauma. That is a trauma reaction. Her whole body, that's her nervous system. This is how deep these things are inside of Black bodies across the United States of America. We carry this and typically are unaware that it exists inside of us until there's an experience like this. One of the messages on the sidewalk said, "N-word die." That's the one that really touched me. She told Fox 11 Los Angeles, quote, "I moved over to my car. It said dumb N-word. Then we moved on to the next one. One says N-word house. The next one said die. The gate says dumb N-word. And the spelling is not even correct." Well, racism and stupidity typically go hand in hand. Now, the vandals eluded nearby surveillance systems and targeted areas where security cameras weren't pointed. That means that they likely live in the community or they did significant investigation prior to doing the vandalism. After snapping photos of the graffiti, the family cleaned it off their property. Only the message on the sidewalk remains. The family filed a police report, hoping that authorities would track down the individuals. They are working to contact the mayor's office about the incident, Ms. Garbutt stated her family has lived in the View Park area of LA, which is nestled between Inglewood and Crenshaw since 1990, and has never been the target of a hate crime. Quote, "I've been living here since I was a baby, 35 years. Garbutt's daughter, Elisa, said, quote, "And to be afraid to be in your own house, that's not a good thing. It's very stressful. I don't understand why. Why our house was the reason. It is your who, madam. It is your who. It is your being, your Blackness. It's also the pettiness of individuals who I guarantee you vote for Trump, who are part of the MAGA crowd. Listen, 8 years of President Obama didn't bring you this. Now, has America always had its bouts with racism? Of course, absolutely. But Trump has led a regime and a de facto government that would damn near, if not absolutely, commit treason if he said so. He was able to get governors on his side without being in office. He was able to get Republican lawmakers on his side without being in office. You have to think about this. What are they compelled to actually do? Well, that's to be antithetical to you, to your progress, to the progress of the nation by proxy. All right, Cenk, thoughts here?
Yeah, two things. First of all, this one's Los Angeles, and even in one of the most liberal cities in the country, we still have this going on. In fact, Rashad, that's about 10 minutes from here. So right around the corner. And so it's happening here. And now part of that is what you said. They've now been empowered to come out of the closet. And so now they're saying all the things that they've had in their heads for all this time. I have a friend, not a friend for sure, but a neighbor that lived right across the street. He just moved, thank God. He put a QAnon sticker on his truck. Wow. And so I live across the street from this brother. And, you know, those folks think that we're killing babies and drinking blood. I mean, God knows what they think. And so what's scary about it is they live all around us. Yeah. And every once in a while, they'll put a bumper sticker up, but they'll do graffiti to let you know, I'm here and I hate you. And that is a hell of a thing. And then the second thing is, I was just talking to my sister about this last night, Rashad. You know, we're Muslim Americans, and what we're constantly having to do is, and she said this, is just like African Americans in this country. We constantly have to justify our existence. Like, before we do anything else, first we have to tell people we're not terrorists, we're not violent, we're not these dark forces that American media has painted us out to be, before we even have a conversation. And so she was reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, and she's like, oh my God, the Black experience is exactly our experience in America. And so those folks, they don't know anything about that lady that lives there. They just judge her existence before they even met her. So she's got to, we all have to get over that hurdle first, which is so monumentally unfair to all of us, before we even have a conversation and you can judge the content of our character.
Man, you make a beautiful, beautiful point, and I want to echo this because I was part of a really great conversation with the beloved community. This is Dr. Bernice King's platform in Atlanta, and I was there hosting along with a panel that included a Hispanic pastor, male, a white female pastor coordinator, and a Black female. And we were talking about what you just said. How can you have a conversation when they've already told you that this person is basically subhuman and not worthy of a conversation, right? And this was in a religious context, so a faith context. And one of the individuals, the Hispanic brother, said, well, listen, at the end of the day, if I believe what I believe truly, and if you believe what you believe, if you're a Christian evangelical, we at least believe this, that man is made in the image of God. If you believe that, that means that we're all worthy of an opportunity to converse, period. And if you don't want conversation, then you don't believe that fundamental principle of our faith. Now, I thought it was a powerful point that he made on the panel, something that typically most faith traditions will agree with. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I really love what y'all do on the Young Turks, man, and it's a very refreshing, voice. Y'all don't lean to one side. I tell people all the time, if you want to go really hear what's going on honestly in our society, you should tune in to the Young Turks.
Thank you, Charlemagne. We appreciate that.
That's awesome. Really appreciate it, brother.
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm new to TikTok, but about 3 years ago, I started my daily political news show, The Damage Report, because I noticed this trend where every morning I was waking up to this tsunami of news that was just generally dreadful and horrifying and shocking, and I thought that if I could spend my time helping people to navigate this, serving as a bit of a life raft, pointing out which news is important and why, there are worse ways to spend your day. We're not an average news show, and we don't want our TikTok presence to be average either, so feel free to let us know what you'd like us to do on the platform, and maybe give us a follow at The Damage Report.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it, and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Okay, we got a lot of comments. I got the boss man with me today. It's been a minute too, man. It's good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, Rashad.
It's good to have you on war days like this, man.
It's a big day.
It's a big day. All right. What we got? Okay, yep. Michael Prestano. First time ever catching this show live, but I watch it all the time. Love seeing Cenk on this show. We love having him here. All right. And we're going to be together later this evening as well. Remember, full coverage, all day coverage. Cenk, you'll just drop it for people so they'll know how to get us for the election coverage today.
So we're doing one big stream here, and you can just go to TYT.com and just stay there all day, because you're also going to get the exit polls. You're going to get all the up-to-date information on the elections. We've got some, threats in Georgia on voting stations. But news like that breaking throughout the day. We got some fun games. We're saying whoever comes close to figuring out the ultimate winner here on the website, we've got that game. Will be declared election champion of the world. Just fun. And then of course all the different shows throughout the day and all the way through the night. And Rashad's going to join us later in the night for our election night coverage too. Make sure you're going to tyt.com, get all the information and all the analysis that you need.
Looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. Electric miscellanea. Cenk stole John's desk. I wonder what somebody noticed. Cenk stole John's desk. Does John know about this? Or did Cenk invoke CEO executive privilege to commandeer from him? I can say I actually saw the transition. So John is definitely aware.
Yeah. No, it was I did not use an easement.
Right.
I'm not a squatter.
Right.
No, he gave me permission.
He did. All right. And over 9,000 into the Dragon. Great catch, Doc. He just put into question every case he's handled or given testimony on. That is correct. All right. We got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Thank you. You kindly.
You want baby sacrifice, okay?
Yeah, I vote for women's rights. I will stand up. I have daughters. I'll stand up for women all day. A man should not even have a choice about a woman's body. We should not even be able to vote yes or no. This should be up to them. Take on that on out of here. Yeah, well, I vote for women's rights. Y'all could go ahead and keep on moving.
Freedom of speech, brother. Hell of a thing. All right, so this MAGA canvasser expressing her freedom of speech to take a woman's right away to choose was met with someone who understood how to utilize their freedom of speech as well and made some very compelling points. I think the greatest point you made there, brother, to the Karen that knocked on your door that day, we should not even have a vote on it. That was a grand slam. But this is what we're facing. Remember, we don't elect a king, we elect a president. That president comes with a whole litany of people, agendas, etc. And Trump's out of damn control, but he's been out of control for a while. Cenk, and I got to say this, man, I think outside of the normal, Trump is out of control, it seems like there's a significant cognitive decline happening with today's Trump compared to maybe the Trump you would have seen probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, I theorized earlier in our election coverage on John's show on Damage Report that I think that shooting might have traumatized him, and he's almost trying to lose. I mean, this is crazy talk. I mean, he's calling Nancy Pelosi the B word the day before the election, talking about how Kamala Harris should get in the ring with Mike Tyson. I mean, when your number one problem is women voters, for you to do this type of stuff is basically saying, hey, get me out of here. Somebody pull me, somebody throw in the white towel. So I hope that's the case. But about this incident, Tucker Carlson's saying the same things as that woman is. He just said yesterday that that abortion might have caused the hurricanes. It wasn't global warming, and it's because of child sacrifice. Same words, child sacrifice. So just two quick things on that. Number one, the Republicans have been using this trick for decades now. I wrote about it in my book, Justice is Coming. They're saying, hey, we need corporate tax cuts, but they're super unpopular. So how are we going to get them? Oh, let's pretend that the Democrats are killing children. So that way, when we get into office, we won't do anything about it. We'll just make sure, though, that the tax cuts for the rich keep flowing and flowing and flowing. It's a strategy they came up with very consciously. So and unfortunately, it gets like a poison into the minds of these people, and then they spread it around. And then Tucker said, I mean, it's all about the others. And he starts demagoguing about the others and how they all do child sacrifice. But let's remember our own traditions. So what did God ask Abraham to do?
Yeah.
Well, what did God do himself to his only son? So if you're a Christian, read the Bible, read the Bible. And so this idea that the others are so scary and killing children, it's absolute nonsense. It's junk and poison they put into people's heads so that Republicans can get more tax cuts for the rich.
Man, and thank you for reminding those who follow scripture. As I have said, I believe scripture is the inspired word, not the literal word. Stuff like slaves obey your master. I can't get down with that. I don't give a damn where it's written at. Okay. And also, if a woman was pregnant and a man hit that woman in the Old Testament and she had an abortion or miscarriage, well, it wasn't attributed to him as a murder. He had to pay a civil fine, but murder was considered, well, life for a life back then. Just some context for you. Cenk, I'm going to see you this evening, dear brother. Positive vibes and positive thoughts. Manifestation. All right, we got this, brother.
Okay, I hope so. We're going to find out. It's a very unpredictable election. You know, I said this morning, all right, if I have to pick positive vibes, Kamala Harris, she does seem to have, you know, some of the early voting going on our side. So let's keep those positive thoughts going.
We shall. All right, I'll see you this evening.
Yeah.
All right, we got Sharon Reed on the other side. Stick and stay.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor, or concern for whose toes we might step on, or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
All right, welcome back. Historic day to day. Elections are, well, a determining factor in how a nation is governed, but it's really an expression of the character of a nation as well. And so today we determine character and direction of the United States of America. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, okay? Kara, I love that guy talking about the guy who checked the Karen. He said, we shouldn't even have a right to vote on it. I mean, come on, man, that's what I'm talking about. That's next level. And Cyber Gothica, about the guy who checked the Karen, he's right. Just having to vote for them, to have the right is offensive enough. Matt F, vote all MAGA weirdos out of office for good, 100, 100, yeah. Yeah, C. Michael Henson, thank you for that, C. Michael. To Cenk's point, it's funny how Trump keeps doing and saying the same things, but his supporters won't leave him. That's called behavior. That's proof positive. It's a cult, all right? They would allow Trump to get away with behavior that they would never accept from their own children. They would disown their children, but they would embrace Trump for the same exact behavior. All right. Okay. All right. We got Sharon. We got Sharon Reed here for our next round. Okay. Hell of a thing that happened. So a MAGA account reposted a deep fake video of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. endorsing Trump. Nothing is sacred to these individuals. All right. Here's a video.
We've been told again and again that we cannot vote for the man that did more for the black community than any other president. If a black man dares speak out in support of Donald Trump, a Democrat is always there to call that man an Uncle Tom, a house Negro, or even worse. Once we say enough from every mountainside, let freedom ring. We recognize that Donald J. Trump kept the promises he made to all Americans, and we will vote for Donald Trump as our president, and we will fight beside him to make America great again. We will not allow the American dream to die, and as we unite under the banner of President Trump and America First, let there be no doubt that yes, as the man always says, the best is yet to come.
Put up the picture here. Now, I don't speak for the King family or our dear sister, Dr. Bernice King, but I do speak for myself. Any black people were involved in the making of that video. You are Uncle Toms. You are sellouts. The video posted by MAGA enthusiasts showing the likeness of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. endorsing Donald Trump has drawn the attention of the late civil rights icon's daughter, Bernice King. So Bernice, who's a dear friend, Bernice posted in response to the offensive video writing, delete this MAGA resource. It's vile, fake, irresponsible, and not at all reflective of what my father would say. And you gave no thought to our family. Keep up that post. You see, the individuals who did this and the MAGA camp and officials of MAGA who would never call it out, see, nothing is sacred to them. These are the same individuals who would twist the Bible to make slavery seem legal and righteous. These are the same people who will lie on God. Absolutely, they will lie on Dr. King. These are the same individuals, ladies and gentlemen, who only have one true ideology, and it is the ideology of power. The ideology of power. It's unclear the video, which teases Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, and if he could speak today, was officially produced and or sanctioned by the Trump campaign. At MAGA Resource deleted it as of Tuesday morning. Much of the text lifts almost directly from the Republican nominee. And I want to say this about the work that Bernice is doing. I had the great opportunity, as I said with Cenk earlier, to be part of the beloved Community Talks, where it's a platform you can go to the YouTube page connected to the King Center, where we talk about ways that we can actually unite under the philosophy of Dr. King, nonviolence, a direct approach to reconcile the divisions that run deep in this nation and beyond. Totally contrary to the MAGA movement, by the way. Totally contrary to the MAGA mouthpieces, and obviously contrary to what was posted. To make matters worse, the video was, well, a repost from different pro-Trump account, a different pro-Trump account that originally posted the clip during this year's Black History Month. Once again, there is nothing sacred to these individuals, and their true ideology is the ideology of power. I'm glad, Sharon, that Bernice King got in there and checked that ass quickly so that we can report on it fully. Sometimes people say, well, I don't want to say anything. No, no, no. Now Bernice gonna say something.
That's right.
Every time.
That's right. And just because her father preached nonviolence and led the way, it doesn't mean that she can't dig in that you know what. It's
Right.
despicable, but like you said, when people are lacking a soul, integrity, their own moral clock, whatever that is, some people just decide that they're going to do and say whatever they want, and they could care less. And that's what we're looking at here. I don't know how some people can sleep at night, but apparently when you don't have a soul, you can sleep like a baby.
Yeah, it is just one of the most, when you think they have gone too far, they do something else to let you know, no, too far is only connected to the parameters of their evil imagination.
There's no
And that's
bottom,
it.
Doc. No
Yeah.
bottom.
No bottom for them, you're right. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
Magic. It's showtime. And say 45 minutes. I'm hosting today. Now I know what you're thinking, JR, your face is already perfect, but you know what? I still need to apply some makeup. I went through this process, right? A few years ago, when I realized that I was gonna have to wear makeup on the show. I had to go through like finding out what my undertones were. You guys know what those are? I got my MAC Cosmetics. It says SPF 15 foundation, broad spectrum. But apparently when I have is red undertones, and I think pores are not supposed to be seen. I need all these things to be confirmed for me. These sponge things don't work for me. You gotta use your hands. This idea. That's how the magic really happens. So we're gonna go through a tutorial how to make the magic happen from beautiful to beautifuler. Let's go. I've already been moisturized. That's the first thing. But moisturization already happened. We go raw. All hands. Pick up a couple streaks. This is the guy way of putting on makeup. We got dots. There's some shiny points that generally happen. First of all, here we go. You dust here. I'm putting way too much, but you dust. Oh, get the excess off. You don't want chunky powder. There's like a T-zone, I think, right? Mine is a double T-zone. Because I went middle and another cross. Make sure your nose isn't all shiny. People get on you for it. You know what I'm saying? That's not a good point you made on there, JR. Your nose is shiny. You guys are picky like that sometimes. I think that's about it, fellas and ladies. See you guys next time. Bitsies.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of the comments. Rachel Fox, if ghosts are real, I hope MLK Jr. is haunting the hell out of the people responsible for this. Yeah. The wolf howling. The most notable thing that Trump did for the Black community was was tear gassed then for a photo op. We remember. Yeah. Tyler Hackner, this is disgraceful. Dragon Love says that's disrespectful and disgusting. And Cyber Gothica says this AI video is criminal. That's right. It is. At least it should be. Okay. We have an update. Breonna Taylor update. Remember the cop who decided to indiscriminately shoot in her apartment, killing her? Well, that cop has been convicted. Let's go to the footage and I'll give you the background. Here it is.
A federal jury in Louisville, Kentucky convicted a former officer of violating the civil rights of Breonna Taylor by shooting blindly into her home 5 times during the execution of a search warrant in March of 2020. A different officer on the scene tragically shot and killed Ms. Taylor. Breonna Taylor's life mattered. We speak her name to acknowledge the loss of her life, to recognize her dignity and worth.
Let's put up the picture full mass. Remember, this was the picture that went around the world. Breonna Taylor, innocent American citizen who was shot and killed by the police for absolutely nothing. They then engaged in a criminal conspiracy to cover up their crimes. They already engaged in a criminal conspiracy to fabricate information that led them to that apartment in the first place. A federal jury on Friday convicted a former Kentucky police detective of using excessive force on Breonna Taylor during what they call a botched 2020 drug raid that left her dead. The 12-member jury returned the late night verdict after clearing Brett Hankinson earlier in the evening on a charge that he used excessive force on Taylor's neighbors. It was the first conviction of a local cop in that jurisdiction who was involved in the deadly raid. Put him up. There he is. All right. So you have Brett Hankinson. So Taylor's mother, her name is Tamika, Miss Tamika Palmer, celebrated the verdict with friends outside the federal courthouse saying, quote, "It took a lot of time. It took a lot of patience. It was hard. The jurors took their time to really understand that Breonna deserved justice." Now, I want to point out an irony to this. What happens if you don't have on a blue uniform, okay, and you work in a criminal enterprise? They would call that a clique, a crew, or a gang, and you do something criminal. The person driving may not do anything criminal with you, but they're driving. There's a person that walks up the stairs with you. They may not actually shoot a gun, or maybe they shoot and it don't hit anyone. What happens if something criminal takes place and one of those individuals shoots and kills someone? Well, everybody gets charged with murder. Everybody gets charged with murder. You have different ways to do it: aiding and abetting. You have the gang qualifier, like in the state of Georgia, where they can charge you under the gang statute. And all of a sudden, you're guilty by affiliation. Why is it that when the clique, the crew, or the gang happens to wear police blue and work for the government, why is it that they somehow receive immunity from that statute? Because there's nothing in the statute that expressly dismisses them from being charged as a gang. Nothing. It's just in the culture. We don't do that. All right. Sharon, at least the wheels of justice are turning somewhat in the right direction for this family. The mother seems to be pleased that the jury did the right thing by this particular charge. But once again, first federal conviction, there's more to go.
Yeah, federal. And that's the key. This mother had to bring down her expectations and now meet those minimal. This is outrageous. Okay, let's remember when we see Breonna Taylor in that picture that's heartbreaking, we know she's accomplished. We also know that she was even greater than that, or else those powers that be would have put out pictures of her that were unflattering. Okay, they just don't exist. But I want to mention something else here as he gets a little slap. That's what I'm going to call it, because in Tennessee they have something called Joker's law. In some places in the South, you kill a police dog, you get 8 to 30 years.
Right.
Okay. This is, I am happy that something's being done here, but not nearly enough. She should be here.
That's right. That's right. And once again, like the mother said, it did take way too long for her to get just an element of justice for her baby. All right, we're going to continue to follow this and bring you updates as they come. Lil Tuk Tuk. Yep, Lil Tuk Tuk has figured it out. He knows exactly what's going on around here. The hurricanes are due to women having abortions. Here it is.
You know, people, and I have to say, I'm sure I'll be attacked for saying this, but I really believe it. People are like, oh, well, we had another hurricane, must be global warming. No, it's probably abortion, actually, just being honest. Like, you can't do that. You can't kill children on purpose, knowing that you're doing that in exchange for power or freedom or happiness, whatever you think you're getting in return. You can't participate in human sacrifice without consequences.
Put up Lil Tuk Tuk's picture. I got a question for him. So, since you're so concerned about the children, Tuk Tuk, why is there not a slew of hurricanes in Israel? Because they've killed a significant number of children with the war they have waged in Gaza. I thought this was about the children, Tuk Tuk. Where do I start? So he was on Steve Bannon's show called The War Room. Why did they let Steve Bannon out of prison? Hell if I know. Hell if I know. Quote, I think I've been proven right on this one, he said, and we have every reason to be suspicious of electronic voting machines, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. They're just kind of going all over the place. And it's certainly not the first time something like this has been said about abortion. So so Tucker's statement comments echoes those of fundamentalist Christians who blame, you know, basically every catastrophe on abortion. Okay, just days after the September 11th attacks, you had Jerry Falwell who blamed abortionists and other groups for drawing, you know, God's ire to destroy, I guess, people who are at work. Let me just say this. Listen, people like that, and I refuse to allow them to hijack my faith, all right? I'm a Christian man. I don't know what the hell they're on. They're on something else, okay? I look for Christian context, Christ consciousness, collective opportunity. I believe Christ preached the gospel of inclusion, and then man ripped it away, created a book, and developed a religion, hierarchy, and money. So when I say I'm a Christian man, my context is quite different than the vast majority of those you will see raising their hands and worshiping Donald Trump. So believe that. Just a hell of a thing that we would ever think the creator of all is somehow down with this madness. Okay, Sharon, thoughts here.
These aren't Christians by any definition. These are contortionists. Tucker Carlson is a contortionist. He twists and turns and pivots. He can't answer your question, Doc, because he's not interested in having an honest conversation. The math ain't mathin' in his universe, and the people who roll with him are fine with that.
Yeah, they are. But that's why this had to happen. That's why you have this fork in the road. The DNA of the nation of America is founded and rooted in bigotry, slavery, sexism, racism, the whole nine.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. Now, can you nurture beyond nature? Yes, you can. But it takes fighting to do so. Sharon, always a pleasure. having you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you and check out your great work.
TYT Rebel, we're rolling along in the Black Network. I appreciate you always, and I like this little tag team thing you got going. WWE can't compete with this. It's wonderful. Election day. I'm learning lots, and I'll be watching throughout the night.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all you do, Sharon. And we'll be back on the other side real soon. I'll be seeing you in a little bit. Okay. All right. Remember, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning.
You have the Young Turks and a bunch of other progressive forces saying this is the time to fight for our values.
And I think right now there are a lot of progressive voters, many leftists who feel like they don't have a home.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
What we've done is sustainable, slow, healthy growth. And I think that's the way news should be, where you don't rely on sensationalist stuff. You don't lean on whatever's trendy in the news at any given moment. You know, you just go with the truth.
You gave me a platform.
You've uplifted so many other progressive voices through this network, and you're constantly looking for people that you can amplify through the work we do, through the infrastructure that you built at TYT.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
We're super serious about the news. We also managed to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We're not TYT, you're TYT.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children.
Well, he's back. We got conservative Joe Collins, former congressional candidate, California, and also CEO of JT Acquisitions. Joe, good day, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. It's good to see you again. Great to be on your show. Thank you.
Well, good to have you back on the program. We got election day coming up. The last time you and I tangled, we were debating conservative ideology versus left-leaning or Democratic ideology. We agreed on some points and disagreed on others. So today, we're going to have a longer conversation about the upcoming election. How do you call it? How do you see it? What policies do you think are popping with Americans? What policies do you think are popping with Black folk? What say you?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. From what I've been seeing, it looks like Donald Trump is going to win. And the reason why is because Pennsylvania looked like it's going to be a tilt, as well as Michigan and Wisconsin. And he has a stronghold on the Bible Belt as well. Kamala Harris, obviously, she's going to get the blue leaning states like California, New York, Washington, Oregon, so on and so forth. But it's exciting to see some of the policies that I think are resonating with America right now is the economy. That's always going to be number one. And James Carville said it, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it's the economy, stupid. That was his catchphrase. And so right now with the price of life actually being up, extremely ridiculous. And then the border is going to be number two. We have an influx of migrants coming across the border. And I think those two issues are resonating with the American people. And when you look at what both candidates are presenting, you have Donald Trump who's talking about it and he has his plans for it. And you have Kamala Harris who's talking about it, but her plans are extremely vague. And I think a lot of people are saying, you've been in office for 4 years as vice president. Joe Biden says that you have the same powers as he is, and you've been a deciding vote on a lot of the policies that are getting put forward. If these was your policy positions, your plans, why haven't you done it? And why you had that opportunity as vice president?
Okay, so let's definitely go through this one by one. I disagree with you on the assumption that Trump is going to win the election. And I say that because there is basically no swing state where he is ahead above the margin of error. And so, as I explain typically to my college students in political science, anytime you have a poll that shows both candidates are within the margin of error, that means that you can basically toss that poll into the neutral category. This is what happened when Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump, that she was ahead by 1.2 points in the swing states, and individuals assumed that meant she was winning those states. No, not when you understand crosstabs of the data. That meant that they were in a dead heat, they were in a tie. No one was outside of the margin of error. The election could go either way. So that's number one. Number two, when it comes to the economy, I find it quite interesting that Republicans are still arguing that somehow Donald Trump is stronger on the economy. So let's have a thoughtful conversation about this. When you say economy, are you also talking about things like inflation, taxes, et cetera, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we have massive inflation happening. We have the money not being stretched long enough, so your money funny now because of inflation. But inflation takes time to happen. And when you calculate the rate of inflation, you see clearly that our consumer supply and demand dynamic, well, that was destroyed under Donald Trump. Donald Trump also created tariffs, trying to go to petty wars with other nations, and it only hurt our agriculture community. They had to pass that cost on to, well, us. And that's why farmers, those that work in agriculture in a record way, voted against Donald Trump in his reelection bid due to the tariffs, which are fancy words for taxes, really, that he affixed to the American people. But if you look historically, Black folk in particular, and all people by proxy, make more money when a Democrat is in office. You can go to any data set you choose to. They make far more money. And even under Donald Trump, for the 4 years that Trump was there, Black people had more technical employment only because they used a U3 rating system rather than a U6 rating system. But they made less household median income due to Trump's policies. So when you actually look at the policies pound for pound, people made less money. They had less money home. They got to write off less things, and that contributed to what you're seeing today. As far as the economic policy, I can quote to you VP Harris's economic policies. Can you tell me what Trump's economic policies are, the ones that are so attractive in your opinion?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But we have to go back to the tariffs. The one tariff that was extremely important was the tariffs on China. And what was happening with China was they were creating products with cheap material and still selling it at market value. That was one of the biggest issues when it came to what you would consider a petty war with China. Nobody wants to buy cheap products at market value. Even when it came to farmers, the farmers in America, they were getting screwed by other countries. We were purchasing other countries' crops, but countries weren't purchasing our crops. And so that was another issue. It wasn't an issue from Donald Trump. It was the issue that he was trying to correct.
But back up there, brother. But he didn't. Now let's be very clear. It wasn't just products. I mean, he could have singled out certain products. They have that line by line right to do so. What he decided to do is basically utilize a section. I think it was from 1974, and it affixed about $50 billion added to that particular tariff or that particular nation with the tariffs, and it hurt farmers. Now, did it solve the problem he said it would solve? No, he was wrong. He was incorrect. He miscalculated. And I think that's the important part. Not that he was trying to do good. I mean, we're not in the third grade, dear brother. That he did something miscalculated and it hurt a whole lot of American families. I think that is how we would typically judge a president of the United States when it comes to the execution of particular policies that go adverse to the intended outcome, correct?
Slightly. But even when you talk about, because when
you're
when you
judging,
talk about,
dear brother, you're judging the vice president, Kamala Harris, for what Biden has done, but you won't judge Donald Trump when he was president for what he said he did. Is Donald Trump responsible for Donald Trump? When he decided to engage in that ridiculous tariff war without thoughtfulness, he executed that tariff war. He lost it. He said he would win. He miscalculated. Farmers are hurt. You don't blame him for that?
I don't believe farmers were hurt under the
That's
Trump
what farmers
administration.
said. You don't believe farmers were hurt?
I don't believe farmers were hurt because if I remember correctly, Donald Trump was forcing other nations to buy crops from us.
No,
until
brother,
until COVID happened.
To go through
until
the
COVID
facts.
happened, everything shut down.
Okay, so you don't believe farmers were hurt by the tariffs that Donald Trump implemented. It was a huge deal. It's a big thing.
No, I don't. I think if you have different countries that are not purchasing our products, but we're purchasing their products, they should be tariffed and they should have to be forced to buy our products.
Let me read something to you. So let me read something to you. And you can find my information. You can vet my sources, foreignpolicy.com, Pew Research, etc. Okay. The title is Trump's Trade Wars Have Made Agriculture Policies Worse. From suffering U.S. farmers to the pain inflicted on the developing world, everything about U.S. agriculture is now dysfunctional. The next administration can do better. In this article that poses all of the economic realities that took place due to his out of this world ridiculous tariffs, it also includes the farming associations, professional farmers who at one point supported Trump, who turned away from Trump due to his unwillingness to change course. Then the federal government made a program and said, hey, farmers, we know we messed up, but here's how we can make it right. You can apply for money right here. And then they made the bureaucracy so complicated that less than 1% of the farmers could qualify for the damn money. So you're still telling me that farmers don't know what they're talking about when it comes to their own industry?
I'm not saying farmers don't know what they're talking about, but if other countries are not forced to purchase our crops, who's going to purchase our crops? But we're constantly
But you're looking at,
everybody else.
see, you're doing the Trump thing. You're looking at it one way, dear brother. It's multidimensional, not just multifaceted. It's not just about what countries buy crops from us. It's also about the countries that we deal with in a globalized context, because when it comes to seed, plant, nurture, and grow, all of those dynamics are not simply associated to local crops. My dad was a farmer.
Exactly.
And you have to deal with other entities when you're growing, especially exotic crops. And sometimes you have crops that do better in certain terrain. Like this thing isn't as simple as you're saying, dear brother. And the farmers are correct because they're the ones who farm. If they said Donald Trump messed up, why wouldn't you agree? Donald Trump messed up.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if just like you said, when we talk about farming, we're not selling to the United States. We're selling internationally. So internationally, if these countries,
that's not true. You sell to the no, that's not true. Local farms sell to the United States. What are you talking about?
So why do we import so much stuff?
The farmers import seeds, brother. They import seeds sometimes, brother.
And with our exports, if we're exporting crops in other countries and not buying our crops at the same median that we buy in their crops,
but that's not what Trump did with the tariffs. Nor did he accomplish it. My point is, everything you're saying, Trump failed at doing. So why can't you judge Donald Trump for what Trump did?
Okay, Trump failed at it. All right, perfect. However, look at this. We're buying so much because the United States.
You know that's gonna mess you up. I know you told the truth, brother, but that's gonna mess you up with MAGA right there.
It does. I'm agreeing to disagree, but that's not the case. If we're importing crops, but we can't export crops to other countries to sell, then why not tariff the crops that are coming into their country until they start to buy our stuff? We've been so soft.
Okay.
We've been so soft on these other countries. It's ridiculous.
Let's go to La La Land. Did it work?
Did what work?
Did what work?
The farmers.
Did it work? other countries now all of a sudden buying more American crops than they were prior to Donald Trump's ridiculous tariffs?
When you had strong leadership, other countries
did it work?
respect it.
Did it work?
They might not like
Did it
it, but they
work?
respect it.
Did it work? Did
It couldn't work because then you have a weak leader like Joe Biden get into office and he's like, you know,
Did it
we're not
work,
going to tear
brother?
up the countries. And
Did
then
it
what
work?
happens to the United
What
States?
year?
Inflation goes up.
Well, what year did he implement the tariffs?
Who, Donald Trump? What
Yeah.
he implemented in 2018?
Did it work?
2017?
Did it work?
It's not going to work overnight. But one thing that we cannot do as a country, we cannot continue to be soft with other countries while other countries
Soft?
are not. Yes, we've been extremely soft.
Talk about
with other
like
countries.
Trump was soft with Russia. Let's go to migrants, as you call them, as you say. Right now, you believe that, I think it's number 2. You said economy was 1, number 2 is immigration, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I think there's a lot of room here, obviously, for context and conversation. But I do think it is somewhat of I think it is a false argument. And many times it's just somebody gaslighting. When they want you to look at immigration as somehow a job killer for Americans. That's one argument that's used. That's the boogeyman, that they are somehow more criminal. And that's a criminal element coming into the United States. And then naturally the argument, they are taking money away from social programs that taxes are going to. And the truth is they actually contribute more to the American taxation system than they could ever dream of taking away. The reality is also that automation takes more American jobs than any immigrant or undocumented worker. When you go to a store and you check out your groceries by way of a machine, that machine or automation took jobs away from 3 or 4 people that would have worked those shifts for that 24-hour period, and those jobs never come back. And the reality is that the individuals who hire undocumented labor, the people that bring in those that do not have their papers per se, are the ones committing the more egregious act based on the subsection of the federal law. But you do not see the CEOs or the hiring managers or the HR director being brought up on charges. You only see the brown folk who are poor being arrested, and then the CEO gets a civil fine. What say you?
Well, I would have to agree with that. Automation is taking a lot of jobs, especially when you look at factory workers, and you look at dock workers. Automation is literally killing that industry. When it comes to immigration, it's not immigration that's the problem, it's illegal immigration that's the problem. We all know that our immigration system has been broken since probably before I was a kid, because when I look back at speeches that prominent political figures have made, they all talk about how the immigration system is broken. However, nobody has done anything to either enforce the laws we have on the book or do anything to fix that immigration problem. I think when you look at the United States right now, and I think we both can agree on this, the jobs that these immigrants are taking are not jobs that the average American would do these days. Just like picking crops. We still have people in certain parts of this country who pick crops, tomatoes, lettuce, so on and so forth. Construction. You got a very small community of people who would do construction, but the immigrant population, they would be more than happy to do construction. I think when you talk about immigration, it's the illegal aspect of immigrants that gets people up in arms. We can't track who's coming into our country. You have 11 million people who has crossed the border illegally. How many of those people are terrorists? How many of those people have priors? And on top of that, one of the biggest things that I find fault with the immigration system is when you cross into the United States illegally, you're breaking federal laws. If you and I, as American citizens, break federal laws, we will be held to a standard that these people are not being held to. So that's my grievance with illegal immigration. We have the ability to fix it. We have the ability to create new programs.
Let's talk about it. You know, I don't call anyone an illegal immigrant. You know why, dear brother?
Mm-hmm.
because there's no human being God has made that's illegal. None.
Right.
You see, these are categories, these are tropes. These words are utilized to other individuals to make you think, to make us think that somehow they are subhuman, and they are not. So I don't refer to them as illegal anything. They are legal by the standard of existence, period. So let's start there. Number two.
I can appreciate that sentiment.
Yeah, number two. You're right about the context. If they wanted to fix it, they could. But you have to start from the cause, and we typically start from effect. Okay? So let's start from cause. What's the cause? The cause is economic destabilization in the foreign countries. That's your cause, economic destabilization. And much of that economic destabilization is there by either the will of factions in America or by the complicit nature of do nothing and allow the destabilization to take place. You know, if we can spend unlimited money to kill people and blow things up, calling it war, we definitely have enough money to help stabilize countries around us in order for there to be stake in the game there. But we don't do that. Why? Because that's not a sexy solution. We would say, oh, that's too much money to a foreign nation. We would politicize it here in America, and we would contextualize it in an improper way, typically, because we're trying to win political points. But the reality is that will cost you less money than any other solution. I promise you, doing what Trump said is going to cost you way more taxpayer money, and damn sure won't be effective talking about rounding up everyone and then shipping them back to their respective countries. The hell? You don't even know where everyone is located. It's not even practical. You don't have enough manpower. What are you going to do? Create internment camps all around the United States of America, put children in cages, et cetera? If we're talking about that, we are now creating enemies throughout the globe that will come back and hunt our children and grandchildren if we engage in such madness. Do you not agree?
Yeah, we've already done that. I mean, when you look at the war in Afghanistan, we created those enemies, 30 years ago, and we're still fighting those enemies today. I absolutely agree. I think that, and this is part of the problem that I have with the older politicians that are in office right now. They don't come up with good ideas for economic development in other countries unless they want to go to war with those countries. But from my perspective,
wait a minute, Joe. Say that, Joe, brother. Even a broke clock is right twice a day. Say that again, Joe.
We don't have politicians that has came up with an economic plan for development in other countries unless you want to go to war with those countries. And we're missing out on a prime opportunity there, not only for stabilization, but for tax revenue. Because you invest in other countries, you're going to get a return on that investment because they have to pay that money back. I mean, when you look at what China is doing in Africa, China is literally, they're going to town with Africa. Infrastructure, coining money, so on and so forth. And in my position, 6-7 years ago, before I even got in politics when I was in the military, that should have been the United States doing that.
Man, but wait a minute, Joe. Listen, man, I got to bring it up because it was a Democratic president, President Obama, who had the African summit in the White House. It was President Obama who said we need to bring Africa in as economic and resource partners rather than the dynamics that have been happening where basically you're coming in and taking. You're taking through force, you're taking through colonization, you're taking through judicial processes. He said, let's make them partners. He did that. No Republican had done that. It was Obama who did that.
And he created us a lot of military bases over there too. And people are gonna hate it that I say this, and I say it all the time. When you look at the structure of America, and this is a God honest truth, we are not partnered with any countries that are not Eurocentric. All of our partnerships are all Eurocentric. Any country that is partnered with an African country or a country of melanated people, we don't mess with those guys. And as a matter of fact, we do everything that we can to ensure that they have no economic development or no economic development plan. And anybody who wants to develop in that country automatically becomes the enemy of the United States. And that's my opinion, but that's what I've been seeing. And that's the God honest truth.
Joe, you're starting to sound like a progressive, Joe.
I don't know if that's progressive policies, but from a business standpoint, I think it's dumb business.
I think what you're saying is simply right and correct and accurate and factual, and you can actually check the record on it. My point to you is you're connected to a brand of politics, but you're trying to be an actual effective public servant. And it's getting to a point, Joe, where the two no longer can coexist. There's so much rhetoric, and I'm not just saying for the right. I mean, MAGA definitely has its rhetoric, but there's rhetoric on the left too. We call them corporate Democrats, okay? It's so much rhetoric that at a point, truth and their rhetoric cannot coexist. And you're getting to that point where you're saying things, man, if I put some of the quotes you said on my show in a clip, and I put it out on social media, MAGA would eat you alive. And all you have done is told the truth. You did nothing but tell the truth. But they don't want truth, dear brother.
But I'm not MAGA. I like Donald Trump, but I'm not, I wouldn't consider myself MAGA at all.
Well,
I
see,
would
that's
consider
the
myself a
point.
centrist.
You like Donald Trump. Donald Trump's son said there is no more Republican Party. All you have is MAGA now. Donald Trump is the founder and leader of the cult known as MAGA. You cannot separate the man and the brand any longer. He has adopted it, he has promoted it, he has branded it, and he's proud of it. So when you say you like Trump, dear brother, understand what that comes with, because the man and the brand are inseparable at this point.
That is kind of true. But at the end of the day, it's a fad, just like every other fad that we've had in the United States. But Donald, if he wins or if he loses, that's the end of it. You ain't going to be able to find anybody who could really brand that or take it to the next level. You're going to get a whole new wave of politicians. And from my perspective, the Republican Party has been there for a long time, just for their unwillingness to reach out to communities outside of their comfort zone.
Well, remember, it was
That's
the
from
Republican
experience.
Party. Remember, the Republican Party, under the leadership of MAGA appointed leaders, they're the ones that got rid of Black Republicans. They're the ones that got rid of the caucus groups, Latino, Republican Latinos, et cetera. They got rid of all their caucus groups, including their youth caucus group and their women caucus group and all of their minority caucus groups. They did that as a systematic change, a transformation in their political norms. Those things have happened under the leadership of Donald Trump.
All I ask of you going forward is keep fighting forward, okay? But we don't fight with arms and physical and any of that, right? We fight with love, we fight with peace, we fight with hope and belief and faith in one another. And we do that strife with knowledge and facts and truth and things that are real. Objective reality matters. So much of our audience is scientists, teachers, engineers, data analysts, people who believe in objective reality, right? So thank you guys for believing in that. Thank you for believing in hope, and thank you for making it happen. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
I really love what y'all do on the Young Turks, man, and it's a very refreshing, voice. Y'all don't lean to one side. I tell people all the time, if you want to go really hear what's going on honestly in our society, you should tune in to the Young Turks.
Thank you, Charlemagne. We appreciate that.
That's awesome. Really appreciate it, brother.
Tell me about the shirt you're wearing.
Pretty much speaks for itself. What's the penalty for treason? Death. Everything was phenomenal under Donald Trump, and now it's Obama calling the shots right now. It ain't Biden.
So it's Obama calling the shots?
I believe so. None of this would be happening if they hadn't stolen the 2020 election from Trump and we the people.
If you could have an option of 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president, what would you choose?
Donald Trump.